Susan, welcome to the new health. Hi, Jim. Welcome to the new health conversation. We're going to be discussing why diets are failing us. I'm the author and actually me of 4 best-selling books, including Why Diets Are Failing Us. And you're going to find out that all the diets out there, when you look at them in the medical world, they really don't work in the long run. And all we're doing. Hello, Art for Be Best. Hi, I'm Peter Greenlaw. I'm the author of Why Diets Are Failing Us. That's what we're going to discuss today. Hi, Lynn. Hi, Jen. Today, what we're going to be discussing is the real solution to losing weight. I got 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies. I've written 4 best-selling books, including Why Diets Are Failing Us. Now, why in the world do you think that diets actually work when 80% of Americans are overweight and 50% are obese? Hello, your pal. So what we're going to talk about today is why all the diets you're on don't work, and a real solution, not backed up by Peter Greenlaw's opinion, even though I'm a nutritional researcher for 21 years. Here's why diets don't work. It's really pretty simple. The whole idea of reducing the amount of food you're consuming to lose weight is antiquated, and it's just wrong according to Harvard Medical School. What matters is not what you're consuming as far as calories or quantity of food. What matters is how much nutrition you're getting. And in these 7 new peer-reviewed studies, which we write about in our 4 books, this one's called Why Diets Are Failing Us. I'm the author, I'm the researcher for 21 years. In the new studies, they found men and women who were not dieting, weren't worried about calories, actually lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet any of you have ever been on. They lost as much weight in a month as a year in any diet. And instead of you thinking of being unhealthy to lose that much weight that fast on a diet it would be, they gain 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. At any point during this podcast today, I'm going to put it up here for you. We have a brand new research site called the New Health Conversation. At any time, you can go there. But if you're really interested, I know it sounds crazy to lose as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, because on all diets, what they now know, based on 38 years of research, you can lose weight on any regular diet. But up to 40% of what you're losing is your lean muscle mass. That's not an opinion on my part. When that happens, what your body does to compensate for less fuel, it slows down your metabolism. I don't care what you do. You come off that diet, you're gaining all the weight back. We write about in our book, one of the studies said that 66 2/3 of people who go on diets by lowering calories or restricting calories gain back more weight than they lost. 66 2/3 of the people going on diets. Carolyn, Master Psychic, your pal John, you're still there. So what we're talking about is why diets are failing us, because they are. Why in the world are you going on diets? I don't care what the name is, paleo, keto, Mediterranean. There's massive research that we write about in our books, the New England Journal of Medicine, the Journal of the American Medical Association. They do 12-month studies and people end up in a year losing only 16 pounds. What's this, 1 to 2 pounds a week thing they advertise on TV? It's all nonsense. There's not one shred of medical evidence behind any of it. So what happens is that people get hoodwinked, and with all due respect to all these influences that you see on social media now, what are they all telling you? The only way to lose weight is to lower calories. Well, I go with Harvard Medical School saying counting calories, reducing calories is antiquated and wrong. It doesn't work. Because when you deprive your body of the amount of food it needs, it automatically, without you doing anything, slows down your metabolism. That's a fact. It's not up for debate. And when you slow your metabolism down, you can't burn as many calories. That's why you gain everything back. And yet these 7 new peer-reviewed studies that we write around in our book, men and women were not allowed to exercise. They really did lose as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet you've ever been on. They lost as much weight in 30 days, 16 pounds in a month that took a year on any diet. And instead of losing water or lean muscle mass, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Aren't you a little bit curious? Does that sound crazy? Now, on the website, I appreciate and agree with this. Good. I'm really happy. I'm glad, Caroline. I'm glad somebody does, right? I mean, I've been doing this I'll be honest with you, Caroline. I've been doing this for 21 years. And I'm not telling this I've written 4 best-selling books. I have them all here. Why Diets Are Failing Us, this medical syndrome called TDOS, TDOS Solutions, and my 4th book called Your Third Brain. It's not a trick title. I'm not selling you books. If you go to the website, there's no books to buy there. The only thing on that website is the medical proof behind what I'm telling you. We're not making things up. These are not opinions. If you want opinions, there's plenty of people on social media that will tell you the only way to lose weight is to lower calories. But are any of them telling you why what they're saying, whether it's a different name, paleo, keto, time-restricted eating, Atkins, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, lose weight for your blood type? Do any of them ever showed you any medical proof of what they're saying? They can't do it. They don't do it. It's not possible. We're giving you hard medical proof, not opinions. I mean, there's lots of opinions out there. But with 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% are pre-diabetic, does anybody really think this is working? 50% are pre-diabetic. Do you know just in the last 7 years, diabetes has increased by almost 20%? This is crazy. And what do we keep doing? We're looking for the new name on the diet. Oh, it's keto this week. It's paleo next. It's time-restricted eating. It's diet and exercise. It's count your macros, whatever. Carnivore. None of them work in the long run. In this protocol that these researchers, they call it R2M. You know what this stands for? Race to maintenance. You can see the website right there, the new health con. Did I spell it wrong? No, conversation. Good. Oh, conversation. No wonder. Let me put it up there again for everybody. I apologize. The new health conversation. There it is. That is a free website. The only thing on there is medical proof. The studies are on there, the results of the studies. There's an interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world, not me. Before and afters that don't just have pounds and inches, but the medical results. Do you realize that people in these studies, blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides, all came down in just 30 days dramatically? They lowered inflammation by 25% in 30 days. And the other thing, and the real reason they did this, was to do something you're probably all not familiar with. And that was to assist our body in removing the chemicals we're storing inside of our fat cells. That's why people complain to me all the time. It's not just how much I'm overweight, it's the amount of fat I have on my body. We're evolving as a species to store chemicals inside our fat cells. Now, I don't want you to believe me, but this medical syndrome that I discovered, it's called TDOS, T for toxicity, D for deficiency, O for obesity, and S for stress. Everybody in the world has this syndrome because we're drinking, breathing, eating chemicals. And they actually have a name. I'm going to read to you from the Endocrine Society. What are they saying about these chemicals that we knew nothing about until late 2005, early 2000, that we were storing them in our body? Listen to what they say. Now you're going to get a different perspective on why you have such a terrible time trying to lose weight. The Endocrine Society, the largest organization of experts devoted to research on hormones and the clinical practice of endocrinology, reports that the rise in the incidence of obesity matches the rise in the use and distribution of industrial chemicals. They go on to say they call these chemicals obesogens. Listen to what they say. Simply put, obesogens are chemicals that disrupt the function of our hormonal systems, leading to weight gain. What? Let me read that again. Simply put, obesogens are chemicals that disrupt the function of our hormonal system, leading to weight gain and many of the diseases that curse the American populace. They enter our bodies from a variety of sources, from natural compounds in soy, from hormones fed to animals, plastic pollutants in food packaging, chemicals added to processed food, and pesticides sprayed on produce. They act in a variety of ways, mimicking human hormones and essentially reprogram us to gain weight. What are you doing about that? I mean, seriously. And here's another follow-up. Frederick von Saul, PhD, curator as a professor of biological science at the University of Missouri, Columbia, stated, obesogens are thought to act like by hijacking the regulatory system that controls body weight. This presence of obesogens is the first reason that traditional dieting methods have become outdated. Never before have traditional low-carbohydrate, low-calorie diets been forced to accommodate this level of synthetic chemicals and the adverse effects they have on the body. The body's attempt to protect itself from the constant assault of synthetic toxins results in the production and storage of fat. There's your answer. Do you know in these studies, they did blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis? Guess what they found? This protocol was removing, well, the body, they were assisting the body, because it's the body that's doing it, of removing herbicides and pesticides, Scotchgard, Teflon, even plastics from the body. What diet are you on that does that? My point is, it's just a different, we're in a different zone now. We know things we didn't know, 15, 16 years ago. And what are we still listening to? The celebrity endorsements. You know, can anyone put in the chat, can anyone name a diet out there that's not some form of lowering calories? What would it be? And for the new people coming on, we're proving to you why diets are failing us. They are. These new studies where men and women weren't allowed to exercise, it had nothing to do with calories. It had to do with what was in the calorie. It had to do with nutritional density. I mean, how most women on this, if you're listening out there, ladies, they lose a whole dress size in 7 days. Let me repeat that. A whole dress size in 7 days. Why? Because what we now know is we're breathing and drinking chemicals. We're stuffing inside our visceral fat. That's the fat wrapped around our organs, sometimes called belly fat. The body is literally housing these chemicals to protect us. And that's why we have so much fat in proportion to how much overweight we are. It doesn't matter. You can do sit-ups, crunches, sit in a sauna. Nothing changes. In these studies, in 8 weeks, people shrank the visceral fat by 33% in 8 weeks. You show me any diet that's doing that. This is not a diet. The main reason to do this is not to lose weight, even though people lost weight 12 times faster than any diet. Instead of losing water, which they lost none, or reducing their lean muscle mass with no exercise, they increased their lean muscle 6 to 9%. Now, some of you are probably, if you're not already, asking, what did they do? How did they do? Bella Starr, I'm glad. I was just about ready to get there. Just give me a moment. Okay, so here's what the researchers did. By the way, they're the top researchers in the world for 38 years. They've done 150 studies on every diet out there. Let's get that out of the way. Well, what they did was they determined that on every diet they'd ever analyzed, people lost weight. Downside. Every time, every person lost up to 40% of the weight they were losing was lean muscle. So let's say they lost 20 pounds. 8 pounds was lean muscle. In every case, every time, because of that, that slowed down the metabolism. People gained back at least as much as they lost or more. So they figured out one of the biggest fallacies of going on any diet was you're lowering the quantity of food, but you're lowering the quantity of nutrition. So they had to solve that first. So what they did, they limited the amount of food people bought. 40% came from the grocery store, organic, okay? The other 60% came from 5 foods that they had found companies who for the last 25 years had searched the world and had found food sources in Russia, Mongolia, Manchuria, Tibet, Himalayas, South America, New Zealand that had massive amounts of nutrition that we can't get from food in North America. Doesn't exist, okay? So they had now 40% of the food from the grocery store, 60% of the food from these other sources. Then they did here's the protocol. They had people do something called protein pacing, where people had specific amounts of protein at specific amounts of time over about 12 or 14 hours over the course of a day. Nothing to do with fasting, nothing to do with intermittent fasting, nothing to do with paleo, keto, Mediterranean. It wasn't a diet, right? 5 days a week they did protein pacing. 2 days a week, they did something, this will sound strange, called intermittent nutritional fasting. On those days, no food from the grocery store. On those days, only 4 of the foods that came from around the world for 48 hours. And when they measured, like I said, blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, one of the things they found, not only were people not losing lean muscle, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle, and also they had proof this was removing the herbicides and the pesticides from the body. Now, if you want to get an even more detailed explanation, on the website that's there. Because that's why these people went around the world. They found foods where there were no chemicals used in those faraway places. And basically what they do, they empowered our own body to, see, Risa, all of us, everybody on here, last night when you went to sleep, well, Belle, go do whatever you want to do. You don't want to change your life? Go on a diet, and in 8 weeks, you'll lose 40% of your lean muscle. You'll gain it all back. I mean, I'm not rushing through this. This is real science. It's not a sales presentation, okay? So, Bella, do whatever you want to do, okay? Not just from overseas, from specific areas, Russia, China, Bangladesh, Nepal and the Himalayas, South America, New Zealand. You want a simple solution, lotions, potions, pills? There's plenty of influences. I don't mean to be disrespectful. Do it. I'm a scientist, okay? And if I'm taking a little bit too long, I apologize in advance. All I can tell you is this. There's no other studies out there that have ever shown men and women losing as much weight in 7 days as in 8 weeks of any diet, losing as much weight in 30 days as a year in any diet, losing no water, and gaining 6 to 9% lean muscle mass at the same time detoxifying their bodies. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about just fitting in your skinny jeans, although most women lose a whole dress size in 7 days. So the idea is that the New Health Conversation, you can go there. It's free. We're not going to contact you. You can see the medical studies. You can see the results of the medical studies. You can see the before and afters. There's a walkthrough. It says how to do the R2M protocol. It's a 20-minute video. Shows you exactly. There's an interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world. And then after that, if you like what you see, you can sign up for a free personal consultation. Who else is giving you that option? Oh, the other thing I should tell you, the 5 foods that come from around the world, how about those suppliers offer 100% money-back guarantee in the first 30 days? You have no risk. I know it sounds good to be true. Try to do that with paleo or keto or time-restricted eating or any of this other stuff. It doesn't work. You can't possibly think if 80% of Americans are overweight, 50% are obese, and 50% are pre-diabetic, that diets are working. How could we think that, right? Mineral deficiency is one of the huge things. Chemical-dependent food systems. Okay, so let me talk about mineral deficiency. That's wonderful that you brought that up, Jeffrey, okay? Caroline, there's no evidence that does anything. It's interesting, but it's not a detox, okay? When you're talking about a detox, you have to do blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, very sophisticated analysis. They even measured things like inflammation, which in the studies came down 25% in 30 days. This is not a diet. This is to maximize your quality of life potential. There's nothing you're doing, with all due respect, carrot juice, lime, whatever you want to do. There's not one shred of evidence of removing 1 gram of toxins from our body that we're storing. I discovered the medical syndrome called TDOS, registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office. I read to you before that the major scientists now are saying, like, I'll read you just from one quote. Frederick von Saal, a professor of biological sciences, University of Missouri, said, by the way, these chemicals we're storing inside our body, they're called obesogens. He says the presence of obesogens is the first reason that traditional dieting methods have become outdated. Never before have traditional low-carbohydrate, low-calorie diets been forced to accommodate for the level of synthetic chemicals and the adverse effects they have on the body. The body's attempt to protect itself from the constant assault of synthetic toxins results in the production and storage of fat and the gaining of weight. There's no diet doing that. You can go on whatever diet you want. But your only thing you're concentrating on is weight loss. Well, in these studies, people lost weight 12 times faster than any diet, and that's the least interesting result, according to the researchers that are the top diet researchers in the world. And yet you can go and see the proof for free at Risa, again, understand you're going to spend probably a third of what you're spending now on regular food. The other 2/3 may in fact offset the cost of these other 5 foods that are coming from around the world. But here's the bottom line. I mean, I guess you can all ignore the fact you're storing chemicals in your body and hoping that doesn't turn out to be some catastrophic event down the road, although the researchers now are saying these toxins are leading to the contribution of the diseases we're seeing in the 21st century. As a matter of fact, I think in here's another quote about diets, why they don't work, from Paula Bailey Hamilton, considered to be the world's leading authority on toxic chemicals. She says, what appears to be happening is that our natural slimming system is being poisoned by toxic chemicals we encounter in our everyday lives, and this damage is making it increasingly difficult for our bodies to control their weight. The end result is that we gain weight in the form of fat and not muscle, as chemicals tend to cause muscles to shrink and body fat to accumulate. This isn't my opinion. I don't want you to get mad at me for just exposing the truth, what's really going on. You think it's you. You think you're going to do time-restricted eating or paleo. You're going to get a trainer. That's all okay. But the medical proof is overwhelming that it doesn't work. I mean, we have a couple big studies that were done on diets by Harvard Medical School. They did a 12-month study on diets by reducing calories. Can anyone name a diet, put it in the chat, that's not reducing calories? What did they find after 12 months? The most anybody lost in a year was 16 pounds, and up to 40% of what they lost was lean muscle mass. Then they did a 12-month study on time-restricted eating. I know it's a big buzz thing now. You don't eat for 16 hours, you eat for 8. What was the result? After a year, people lost 12.6 pounds. Again, about 40% of what they lost was lean muscle. Despite what they're telling you, the influencers are telling you, oh, you can do time-restricted eating and the majority of the weight loss is fat. Fabrication. The proof is the opposite of that. And how long are we just going to continue to pretend that everything's cool? You can go for free and see the proof, medical proof. There's no celebrity endorsements there. If you go to that website, the New Health Conversation, yeah, Jules, that's amazing. I understand because the food had nutrition in it. So it's not surprising. Yeah, okay, Doc is correct. Okay, I appreciate your response, but what? Okay, I answered that. Risa, healthy eating doesn't have to be expensive. Exactly, because here are the things we're the most deficient in, that the researchers found sources to overcome it. One, and I think it was Jeffrey that said about mineral deficiency. So the thing we're the most deficient in are what are called trace ionic minerals, okay? You have what are called chelated minerals. They're completely inferior. A chelated mineral, in order for the body to use it, it has to basically hijack an amino acid to be effective. Trace ionic minerals, in the best organic food they've measured, you get between 15 and 20 of the trace minerals, right? We need 70. So the very first thing the researchers did, they found a source where it contained all 70 trace ionic minerals. How do you think your body's going to work better, with 20 or with 70? I mean, I'm being facetious, of course. All right, that's one thing. But the second thing, and this will probably blow most of your minds, we know that, for example, protein is both a blessing, but it's also a curse. What? Protein itself is the only way we get the 20 amino acids that are called the building blocks of life. 9 are called essential, meaning you have to get them from your diet. 11 are non-essential, okay? So you've all been told, I've seen it on social media, ingest like 120 grams of protein in a day. So you think you're getting 120 grams of protein. Dog wash, okay? No, not true. What happens is, in Europe about 10 years ago, they developed an analysis through stool, blood, fat, and urine analysis, where they could determine when you ingest protein from a plant or an animal, you get all 20 amino acids. That's a given. But here's what matters to us. What percentage of those aminos from 0 to 100 are being used by the body to remake us, to make human cells? Well, this will make vegans mad. I'm just a scientist. I'm just telling you the results. When they analyzed vegan proteins, they were anywhere between 10 and 15% absorption out of 100. All animal proteins, I'm not one way or another, I'm just giving you the numbers, steak, chicken, liver, fish, etc., were 30%. In the studies, they found a source where the absorption of the amino acids from a protein source they located was 91%. Now, what you haven't asked, and I'll answer it for you, is, well, wait a minute, if we're only absorbing 15 or say 30% in animals, what about the other 70%? Aha, if they're turned into toxic waste. Toxins, they're called nitrogen catabolites, urea, creatine, ammonia, and glucose. So what you're not converting to amino acids, the kidneys have to get rid of. That's why when people are on kidney dialysis, they pretty much want to limit all their protein. And yet protein's the only way, for example, that you can make lean muscle in the body. One of the 20 amino acids called leucine. That's why in these studies, they didn't allow anybody to exercise, men or women, no exercise. And yet they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass despite losing weight in a month that took a year on diets. Here's why. Because they were getting 91% of leucine, which is the amino acid responsible for building muscle. These are the top researchers in the world. They figured out what didn't work after 38 years of 150 studies on every diet out there. I mean, you can believe whatever you want to believe. Hang on to those beliefs. But go to Walmart, go to Kmart, go to Target. Go to Costco. Look at what's going on. And it's not about fat shaming on my part. I mean, my own mother was morbidly obese my whole life. I loved her. And 23 years ago, before I became a researcher, she called me up one day and said, Peter, I have one wish in my life. I said, Mom, what's that? She said, I would give anything if I could just spend a day, one day, 24 hours thin. I said, wow, Mom, that's cool. Well, 6 months later, massive heart attack and stroke. My mother did about every diet that there was 23 years ago. She would cut diets out of Reader's Digest, out of the National Enquirer. She did the grapefruit diet. She did the cabbage soup diet. She did Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, OptiFast, fasting, the Atkins diet. I believe my mom dieted herself to death. It's one of the big motivations why I became a researcher. I said, there's just something wrong with this. I saw her being diligent. She'd lose 20 pounds, gain 25 back. She'd lose 25, gain 30 back. I lived with this for a long time during my life and saw my poor mom break her heart, putting her time and effort into these diets that don't work. That's why my first book, Why Diets Are Failing Us, because they are. You can't possibly think if 80% of Americans are overweight and 50% are obese and 50% are pre-diabetic. There are projections now within 20 years, close to 100% of Americans are going to be overweight. Do you know obesity in just 6 years, in 2018 to 2024, has gone from 42% of the population to 50%. It's like a 20% increase in 6 years. So it's not getting better. Go to Barnes & Noble. There's more diet titles now than ever. There's celebrity diets, and there's astronaut diets, and there's the South Beach and the North Beach and paleo, keto, Mediterranean, time-restricted eating. They don't work long term because, number one, they don't address one of the main reasons why we've got so many people overweight, despite their best efforts of dieting and exercise and eating organic and doing everything they think is right, because they're storing these chemicals. Toxicity, deficiency, the deficiency of the nutrition in a food is what prevents the body from removing the chemicals. Well, that's what they did in the studies, in these 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies where they proved that men and women shrank the visceral fat where we're storing the chemicals by 33% in 8 weeks with no exercise. Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, Ansel Keys. I know all about Ansel Keys. I really do. Yeah, Jewel, but you've got to understand the researchers knew that. So what they did, instead of using like probiotic fiber, they used prebiotic fiber. What does that do? Well, they didn't do it, but the sources, they found sources that had prebiotic fiber. Because what does prebiotic fiber do? It manufactures more gut flora. One of the studies they did that was published in Nature Communications, the #1 medical journal in the world, dealt specifically with gut health. It's called the microbiome. In 30 days, they saw an increase of 30 or 40% in what's called the biodiversity, meaning the different kinds of microbes and bacteria that were in the gut. In 8 weeks, people with severe gut challenges, wow. It's right in the study. It's not something I'm making up. You can read it right in the study. This is not a diet. Please get that through your heads. It has nothing to do with dieting. I know a lot of you want to like tune in and tune out and have you give me like a 10-second answer. I'm not doing that. This is real science. It took 38 years for them to figure this out because the researchers knew that after looking at 150 studies, thousands of people on about every diet out there, and these people, they work with Green Berets and Navy SEALs and NFL football players and CrossFit people and marathoners. This is so much more than just losing weight. Because I told you can lose weight on any diet. But what kind of weight are you losing? We wrote about it. It's our original research. We didn't make up anything. Up to 40% of what you're losing on any diet, the more successful you are, the worse off you are. You lose 30 pounds, 40% of it is lean muscle. That's like 12 pounds. And when you lose lean muscle, guess what your body does? It slows down your metabolism. You don't have a choice. It slows it down. But the other thing it does that you may not know is when you reduce your lean muscle, you also inhibit your own immune system. What? Yeah. Did you know that? Are any of these influencers telling you anything like that? Oh, we're going to show you, cut 300 calories a day. Really? What does Harvard Medical School say about that? Stop counting calories, they're saying. Stop. It's antiquated, and it's wrong. They're now saying it's wrong, that everything they were telling us, they admit they made a mistake. Because this newest research shows that essentially what these researchers did that we write about in the 7 peer-reviewed studies, they're going to obsolete Let me ask you this. If it were possible for you to safely lose as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, would you be curious? How about also, before you say, it's unhealthy to lose that much weight that fast on a diet, couldn't agree, it's got to be a water weight. Well, the researchers proved it wasn't water weight. They went on in a month, people lost as much weight in 30 days as in 12 months of any diet. No loss of water. Instead of losing any lean muscle, they gained 6 to 9%. And yet you can go to, let me put this up here again for all of you, health. This is the free website you can go to at any time. All the new health, I want to make sure I spelled it right. Yeah, I did. That's a free website. There's no gimmicks, there's no tricks. We're not going to, if you go there, we won't contact you. I promise you. We don't need to. We're inviting you to go look at the scientific proof. 7 peer-reviewed human trials. And we contrast those trials to trials done by the New England Journal of Medicine, the Journal of the American Medical Association, by Nutrients, the Obesity Journal, proving that traditional diets, yeah, you can lose weight on any of them. But up to 40% of what you lose on any diet is your lean muscle mass. Do you see how upside down this whole equation is? What we're being told, what people are, hello, Carolyn, hello, hi, Risa. Robert Lawver. So true in my body and got healed by removing the toxins, getting more nutrients. Let's see. Yes, it happened because it happened to me. Well, it happened to you. That's wonderful. Look, for all of you, what's the new health conversation? What do we want to do for you? Just make you aware of what's available. We're not there to convince you. I mean, we're offering a free website. None of my books are for sale there. Nothing's for sale. Here's the medical proof. You get to choose. You look at the medical proof. If you like what you see, then scroll at the bottom, it says, sign up for a free personal consultation. It's free. It's not a trick. It's not somebody an 800 number trying to sell you something. We don't need to do that. But one of the other things we do that nobody else does, we don't know anything about you. I mean, what if you want to gain weight? We have people that do want to gain weight. Well, we have kids as young as 2 doing part of this, and people in the 90s. I know the biggest thing you're struggling with is your skepticism. Oh, this can't be true. Well, there's 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies that are irrefutable medical evidence that this research has been scrutinized by the top medical doctors and nutritional researchers in the entire world. Do you know what their job is? To discredit not me, but what the researchers are trying to prove. That's why no drug ever gets approved without a peer-reviewed human trial. So when they show you studies on rats or mice, they're interesting, but they're not human beings. The highest echelon is a peer-reviewed human trial study. No other diet program on their own has ever initiated a peer-reviewed human trial study. These researchers, after 38 years of figuring out what didn't work, they presented a new theory, and then they put it to practice, and they were shocked at the results. That one big change was this. They realized that you had a certain level of nutrition that you had to maintain in your body. If you drop below that, you put the body in starvation mode, you immediately stop burning fat, and your body goes and looks for nutrition. Where does it find it? In our organs, our brain, kidney, liver, heart, etc., but it starts in our muscles. Every diet out there, that's what you're doing, whether you believe it or not. You're breaking your muscles down for fuel. Then the body reacts by doing what? Slowing down your metabolism. That's why you plateau on diets. You'll lose weight on any diet. But come off the diet. Show me a year, 6 months later, a year later. Because in these studies that we write about, that these peer-reviewed human trial studies, they take a long time, like more than a couple of years. The people in the studies, one guy lost 150 pounds. He's maintained it now for almost 3 years. Just one example. There's no reason to go on a diet, lose the weight, just to gain it all back. That's why the researchers call the protocol R2M. What does it stand for? Race to maintenance. I know it's too good to be, it's way too good to believe that something like this actually exists. But it does. Do you understand the opportunity you have? If you choose, if you want to surrender to your skepticism, are you fighting harder for your limitations than you are for your possibilities? Just because no one had ever been able to figure this out in a few hundred years? We've been on diets for years. I mean, for more than 100 years. It goes back to I think it was William the Conqueror was one of the first people to go on a diet. I mean, this is crazy. And today, what have we done? We've sophisticated the way of telling you that the way to lose weight is to lower calories. We just changed the name. It's paleo, it's keto, it's Mediterranean, it's this new time-restricted eating code word, lowering calories. Even the shots, which I'm not against. When you really understand what they're all about lowering the amount of food, it slows down the food as it goes through your digestive tract. You're full longer. You don't eat as much food. But I have it. I have the study. New England Journal of Medicine did a 68-week study on semaglutide. Okay? I'm not against the shots. I think they're probably they're helping diabetics. They're helping people that are morbidly obese. But let's just talk about the medical reality. After 68 weeks, the average weight loss in the study was 32 pounds in 68 weeks. And also in the study, what did they say? That the weight loss, up to 40% of what the people lost in the study, was lean muscle mass, proving the point that I tried to explain to all of you. I don't care what diet you've gone on. I don't care what you think has happened. You're losing up to 40% of your lean muscle. Look at the people that have lost weight and they have all that loose skin. You go to our website, you'll see people that lost like tremendous amounts of weight. If I showed it on social media, I'd get banned. And yet, they have no loose skin. You don't have to believe me. Go take a look. It's free. Honestly, what do you have to lose by going to that website for free? What do you think? I'm going to lie and we're going to contact you? We're not going to contact you. My gosh, but you have an opportunity for a free personal consultation with one of our coaches. Someone who's done the protocol, by the way, who's been trained and has helped, in most cases, hundreds and hundreds of people. Because only 50% of this is what you're going to be consuming. The other 50% is how you consume it. Let me review that again. What did the researchers do? What was different? Why did this thing work like 12 times faster than any diet? Because it wasn't based on calories. It wasn't based on restriction. It wasn't based on deprivation. They figured out that they needed to have a certain level of nutrition. It didn't matter how many calories there were. It mattered how much nutrition they had. So they accomplished it by limiting people in the studies to only 40% of the food they bought was from like organic, from North America. And the other 60% of the food, they found fulfillment companies who had made it their business over like 25 years to go around the world to find foods that had massive amounts of nutrition. They went to Russia, Mongolia, they did, not the researchers, but the companies. They went to Bangladesh, they went to Nepal and the Himalayas, to South America, New Zealand. Why did they do that? To make up for the deficiency in the food here. I mentioned before, one of the things we're the most deficient in are trace ionic minerals. We need 70, according to the experts, not me. And in the best organic food you can buy, you get about 20. Does that make any sense to you? If you could get 70 minerals instead of 20, and why are minerals so important? They're called the building blocks of life. They're the catalyst for all the enzyme reactions in our body. In case you didn't know, we work on enzymes. But the other thing that we're deficient in is really the absorption of amino acids. I talked about this before. Let me review it one more time. When you ingest protein from a plant or an animal, the only reason you ingest the protein is for what's inside the protein. So think of protein like a walnut shell. Inside the protein, it contains 20 amino acids. 9 are called essential. You have to get them from your diet. The other 11 are non-essential. So you'll hear these influencers tell you, well, have 120 grams of protein a day. So you think you're getting 120 grams of protein. Nonsense. The body doesn't care about the protein because it's the shell. It cares about the percentage of the 20 amino acids inside the protein. And in Europe, they developed a test about 10 years ago by blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, where when you ingested protein, they could tell you what percentage, 0 to 100 of the aminos, was being used by the body. Well, shockingly, when they looked at vegetable proteins, it was between 10 and I think the highest one was about 20% out of 100. Animal proteins were all, it didn't matter if it was steak, chicken, liver, fish, trout, shrimp, lobster, 30%. Well, the researchers said, wait a minute. And they went and found a source where the absorption of the amino acids was 91%. So do you think you're going to do better with 30% of the 20 amino acids, which are the building? It'd be like building a house. You need 10,000 bricks and they give you 3,000. I mean, you're going to have a pretty short first floor probably on the house. Same thing in the body. The amino acid is what allows the genes to make human protein. To give you an idea, we'll remake the lining of our stomach twice this month. We'll make 2 new livers this year. And we'll turn over almost every cell in our body once every 7 years. It doesn't happen with fats. It doesn't happen with carbohydrates. It doesn't happen with protein itself. It has to do with the amino acids. That's why people on these, okay, with no exercise allowed, gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass, despite losing as much weight in a week as 8 weeks of any diet, despite losing as much weight in a month as a year in any diet, and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle. Why? Because one of those 20 amino acids called leucine, you can look it up, is how we make muscle in the body. That's why bodybuilders that consume 1 or 2 grams of protein for every pound they weigh. They're trying to get more leucine. But my gosh, the waste that they're producing, that their kidneys have to get rid of, is staggering, frightening. So the researchers, when they put the programs together, here's what they were able to do. Part of it was what was called protein pacing, where 40% of the proteins that people ingested were from like domestic sources. But the other 60% came from this source with 91% absorption. So in essence, people could consume almost a third less. That's why I kept telling you, it has nothing to do with the calories. Calories are just it's just a measurement. Really, let's just talk about quantity, the quantity of food. So the people really could have way less protein and still get the same benefit of the amino acids. That's one of the reasons it's so different. That's why protein pacing works. If you tried to do this with regular steak, chicken, liver, it's not going to work. Because again, you'd need 2/3 more of the amount of protein to get the same amount of amino acids. It'd be like your car. You could get 20 miles to the gallon, say you pay $4 a gallon. You could pay $6 a gallon and get 100 miles to the gallon. Now, imagine each gallon either drives you 20 miles or a gallon drives you 100 miles. Well, obviously the car would be way more efficient if it only needed 20 gallons to go. A gallon to go 20 miles. The body's the same way. The fewer amount of calories you can give your body without compromising the amount of nutrition, that's the secret. You're not going to do it with regular food. And all these diets, whether it's paleo, keto, Mediterranean, time-restricted eating, what are they doing? You're cutting down on the amount of food you're consuming. You're cutting down on food that's already nutritionally challenged. Did you know they estimate that an orange from 30 years ago, today you got to eat about 6 oranges to equal the nutrition, almost a dozen apples, and a bowl of spinach. Cornell University analyzed iron levels from 1953 to today. They say they've decreased, you ready for this, by 4,300%. So this whole thing, I eat healthy, I eat whole. Nice try. But it's way less than what we need in this toxic world that we're living in today. Our big problem, one of them, is this medical syndrome. TDOS syndrome, toxicity, deficiency, overweight, and stress. You, me, everybody in the world has it. And the body is capable. The body has its own built-in detox system. We use it every night when we go to sleep, as long as we don't eat too late. Once you go to sleep, your body shuts down digestion and turns on this detox mechanism that has a fancy name. It's called autophagy. I call it taking the trash out. Well, the researchers figured out in 48 hours how to replicate autophagy while you're awake. They got the medical proof through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis. No diets ever even come close. Nothing like that. The only reason people go on diets is to lose weight, typically. Although it can have some benefits, sure, if they can maintain the weight loss, which 66 and 2/3 people gain back more weight than they lost. There's the downside. You can talk to an endocrinologist or an internist if you've got issues with high blood pressure or high blood sugar. They'll tell you if you can lose weight, you're probably going to need less medication. It's a given. Well, it makes sense. Your heart, you have less mass to carry around, okay? But what good does it do to lose it only to gain back more than what you lost? You're worse off than when you started. I would... Can't get them for food. I have a solution. Well, Jeffries, I hope that you do. But Jeffrey, if you have a solution that's not backed by a peer-reviewed human trial study, I'm telling you, it'll mean nothing in the medical world. It'll never get adopted. I know, because for 20 years, I wrote 4 best-selling books. I've done 1,500 lectures all over the world. I was interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America. I did 20 shows on PBS. For 20 years, that meant nothing, zero in the medical world, until these peer-reviewed human trial studies came out. Everything changed. Now I got doctors left and right that are doing this because there is no other system that's peer-reviewed human trials. I don't care whether it's carrot juice or lemon or, bentonite or whatever you want to talk about. There's no proof. None. Zero. Maybe they work, but without a peer-reviewed human trial study, you're just rolling no. It'll never get accept it, you know. And I'm not saying you're not correct. I'm not saying you're not right. I'm just saying that the big deal now is, and we proved that diets are failing us because of what I explained to you, because of really the deficiency in our food. And now we go and lower the quantity of food, which by definition, you lower the amount of nutrition, the body freaks out, goes in starvation mode, and uses your muscles for fuel. It's not up for debate. Look at people that have lost like 70, 80, 100 pounds. My gosh, their stomach's down at their knees. What did they lose? Their lean muscle mass. They didn't lose any fat, despite what the influencers are telling you. Show me the medical proof and I'll believe it. If you can't show me the medical proof, then I'm sorry. It doesn't mean anything. Am I making sense to some of you? 600 milligrams of meal salt. Again, Jeffrey, those are all good suggestions, but there's no proof, Jeffrey, that it wouldn't hurt you. I don't care if it's in PubMed or not, okay? But what's the long term? What's the long term? And also, did they measure, toxins? Did they measure all these other factors? I'm not saying it's bad. Don't hear me say that. But it's not this. These researchers, you don't think they've looked at all those kinds of things? Of course they have. But what's the outcome? What did they do for inflammation, for example? They didn't even measure it. Let's see. Correct. I have a solution. Yeah. I mean, you're really on the right track, Jeffrey. Please don't. I don't want to disparage you in any way. I mean, it's fine. You can have whatever opinion. I had opinions for 20 years. And I'm a researcher. That's all I do. You know how hard it was to just day after day after day have the anecdotal evidence that didn't mean a thing. Till now. I'll put anyone on this, show me peer-reviewed human trial studies where they measured blood sugar, blood pressure, cholesterol, triglycerides, inflammation, visceral fat reduction. People's hunger went down 41% in 30 days. I mean, by mineral, great. I'm not surprised, Jeffrey. You're supporting what I'm saying. We're running. That's why the TDOS syndrome is so deadly. The D in deficiency is the culprit. Because unless you can give your body adequate nutrition, it can't cope with the world that we currently live in. That's why 80% of Americans are overweight and 50% are obese. Let's see. Yes. I don't know about that, Jeffrey. I'm just a researcher, et cetera, and I really just want to help people. Hi, Carolyn. Hi, Robert. Robert Flavor, God's Hand. Look, for all of us, we need to at least be made aware of what's possible. That's why I'm going to put the website up there one more time. The new health. And go there or not and see the medical proof. Wonderpause, I'm confused. No, you goofy. Don't make sense. I'm not sure what don't make sense. What does that even mean? Don't make sense. I'm going to put up the website where you can go and see the medical proof if you're confused. The health conversation. Let's see, what is this? What is this? It's backed by 7 peer-reviewed human trial medical studies. No other program in the world has one study, 0. And basically, it's more about empowering our own body to detox, to move the chemicals that we're storing inside of our fat cells, okay? And the key is, let me put it up there for you. You're saying I'm goofy? That's your best shot? Well, do whatever you want to do. Just keep storing chemicals inside of yourself and thinking everything, oh, glory day, everything's going to turn out great. Well, good luck. It's not going to turn out great. I mean, I'm a researcher for 21 years. I've written 4 best-selling books. I've appeared 20 times on PBS. I've been interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America and did 1,500 lectures all over the world. China flew me to China. They have an obesity epidemic in China. So you can believe whatever you want. Because here's the difference. It doesn't matter what you think about me, goofy. Science has no emotions. It has no agenda. It just is. And when you're looking at 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies where men and women lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, women lost a whole dress size in 7 days with no exercise. They lost as much weight in a month as a year on any diet. Go on traditional diets then. Let me know how that turns out. They're doing nothing to remove the chemicals we're storing inside our bodies. It's zero, none. There's never been a diet that's shown it removed even 1 gram of a toxin from the body. Where these studies that I write about in my best-selling book, they have medical proof through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis that it is assisting our body in removing chemicals. Is that goofy to you? Go for it. But right now, you as an adult will have between 1,000 and 1,500 chemicals embedded in your visceral fat. What are you doing about that? That's kind of goofy, isn't it? But it's not my opinion. We've got major people talking about, like Frederick Saul, professor of biological science, University of Missouri. Chemicals are hijacking the regulatory system that controls body weight. Never before, listen to this, never before have traditional low-carbohydrate, low-calorie diets been forced to accommodate for the level of synthetic chemicals and adverse effects they have on the body. The body's attempt to protect itself from the constant assault of synthetic toxins results in the production and storage of fat. That's what you're up against. No diet does anything about that. So do whatever you want to do. It's not my purpose. I'm not here to convince you. I'm not here to try and sell you. I'm here to educate you if you want. If you want to just keep going on your belief system before you came on this podcast, God love you, go for it. I'm not going to talk you out of anything. But I think we need a reality check. Aren't some of you, if you can lose as much weight safely in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, aren't you at least curious? If you can lose as much weight in 30 days as a year on any diet, aren't you curious? You see it right up there, transforming your body with safe, rapid weight loss in 7 days, taking 8 weeks on diets while gaining 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. That says it all. There's no diet that's ever done that. And you might think we made it up, but we didn't. We have the medical proof on that website for you to see or not. It's up to you. I mean, I've devoted 21 years of my life to this, to chasing not my research. I'm the researcher of the researchers, let's be clear. But anybody can put in the chat if they think, filter on shower curtain. Exactly. Jeffrey, yes. I'm a big fan of chlorine filters on your shower heads at home. I mean, again, you can read about it. Shameless plug for me, but that's what this whole book, TDOS Solutions, is all about things like what you're talking about, Jeffrey. It sounds like you're very knowledgeable in this field. I just say for the rest of people, look, in science, unless you understand the magnitude of a problem, you're never going to come up with a solution. If diets worked, how could you have 80% of America overweight? There's something else going on. Because I believe people, they're trying to eat healthy. I think they're exercising. They're doing everything right. And yet the obesity epidemic continues to explode. I mean, we're at 50% of America right now is obese, not just overweight. So, I mean, the thing that you can do if you want, okay, is you can go to that website for free or not. That's up to you. It's not up to me to do that. Why not look at the medical proof? I want you to believe me. You know, people, tattooed kisses, read above about cows. I didn't, Jeffrey, read about, I'm not sure what you mean. What site? Okay, Jeffrey, here's the site again for everybody. This is the free website, the new Health Conversation. That website is completely free. If you go there, no one's even going to contact you. We don't need to. We'll show you irrefutable medical proof that nobody else has. 7 peer-reviewed human trials in some of the biggest journals in the world, the Obesity Journal, Nutrients, Nature Communications, Obesity Journal. I mean, the evidence is overwhelming. These researchers, after 38 years, have cracked the code. They've figured it out. They found it. Unless you think that you have something where you can lose as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet without the loss of water, without the loss of lean, not only not losing lean muscle, but gaining 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Isn't that kind of interesting to you? So at the new health conversation, you can see it right there. What you mean the sound is an echo? Is that what you're telling me? Ta Tauted Kisses 305. Oh, good. I figured you had some kind of background. That's really great. Huh. I don't know why there would be an echo. Huh. Well, I apologize for that. I'm not sure what I can do about it, to be quite honest with you. I don't know why it would be echoing. Let's see. Oh, it's okay. All right. So let me review. I'm going to wrap this up and we can hear you. Okay. Well, that's the most important thing, I guess. Hopefully, I'm saying something that's of value. Yeah, my sound's all the way up. Again, I'm a researcher. I'm not, I've just adopted this forum because prior to COVID, I'd lectured 1,500 times all over the world, including in China. So I first found Zoom and then I got on TikTok, and it's been a wonderful, incredible ability for me to reach so many people around the world with this message of hope. What I'm bringing you is a message of hope, not despair. So let's review one more time. So what I talked about, we were talking about why diets are failing us, my first big bestseller that came out in 2010. We've written a couple new additions to it in the last 14 years, and then 3 more books after that. I'm the author, I'm the researcher, et cetera. I'm not trying to impress you, but I've spent 21 years of my life as a nutritional researcher working with some of the top medical doctors, oncologists, molecular biologists, geneticists, and nutraceutical chemists in the world. And it's their research that we're bringing light to at our website, The New Health Conversation. You can go there for free and see an interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world for 38 years. Would you be curious about what he says now about traditional diets and why they'll never, ever recommend a traditional diet ever again? Ever again. Because of this medical research that they have now. He said it would be unethical for us to recommend traditional diets, lowering calories, counting calories, where people would take 8 weeks to lose we found people lost in a week. And we had people lose weight in a month. It took a year. And unlike all the diets they'd analyzed over 38 years, 150 studies, instead of on every one of those diets, people lost lean muscle mass, slowed their metabolism down, gained all the weight back. This is the first time ever where people not only didn't they lose lean muscle, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle. You can go and see the before and after pictures on the web. You'll think we photoshopped them. We didn't Photoshop them. I'm going to invite you to go and watch the interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world, and then tell me if paleo, keto, Mediterranean, time restricted, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, South Beach diet, Atkins, lose weight for your blood type, et cetera, that you'll ever even consider one of those again. Why not go with a world leading expert? Not me. My job is to make you aware that here's the information. What you do with it, that's up to you. I have lots of people that come on here and they want to take me on. I don't know why. All I'm doing is presenting real medical evidence. I'm not giving you my opinion on anything. And if you want a simple solution, there's lots of influences you can go to. They're going to tell you the only way to lose weight is to lower calories. It's complete nonsense. It doesn't work. And even when Harvard Medical School comes out and says, stop counting calories, I kind of pay attention. I'll read one of the sections from this book, why diets are failing us, about the whole thing about counting calories, what they said in this big study. They said, truth is, calorie counting is a terrible approach for weight loss. While counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach, has never been proven to keep weight off long term. What's even worse is 2/3 of people who try to count or restrict their calories will gain back more weight than they lost. Do you believe that or not believe it? These are major medical studies. They're coming out and saying, look, what we're doing is not working. You can't possibly think if 50% of Americans are pre-diabetic, it's a catastrophe. And it's getting worse. My God, diabetes has increased something like, I think they said, I'm gonna go grab that study right here. Let me read from the study. It just came out between 2012 and 2022 in 10 years. Type 2 diabetes has increased by close to 20%, according to a study recently published in Diabetes, Obesity, and Metabolism, University of Georgia. I mean, does that concern you at all? Because 50% of Americans pre-diabetic. I mean, it's increased by 20% in 10 years. So does anybody think what we're doing is working? It's getting better? No, it's getting worse. And so you can hold on to whatever belief you want, but all the things that these influencers are telling you have no medical proof behind them. Zero. So what are you going to do? You're going to pretend you're going to be part of the 20%? I hope you are. I'm not rooting for you to become part of the 50% that are obese, or 80% of Americans are overweight. But look at it. More than half of Americans are now obese. Worldwide, we wrote about it in our book, a big study said that now over 1 billion people worldwide, 1 billion people are clinically obese, making obesity the leading form of malnutrition in the world. What? And they said most people don't understand that being underweight or obese are the major leading causes of malnutrition, because people aren't getting the right amounts of vitamins, minerals, and calories that have enough nutrition. That's what these researchers did. They went and found things that weren't deficient, that had massive amounts of nutrition in very few calories. That's why this worked. You're not going to go down to your local health food store and buy, where are you going to get 70 trace ionic minerals in your food? Where? You're getting 20 in the best organic. You could buy a supplement probably, but it's not the same thing as having it in the food itself. Or where are you going to get a 91% absorption of amino acids? Not from plant proteins, not from animal proteins. And if amino acids are called the building blocks of life, think about it. So imagine you were going to build a house with 10,000 bricks and they only delivered 3,000 bricks. You're going to build something, but it's going to be a lot smaller house, or you're going to have really low walls on your first floor. That's what you're doing to your body. You're giving your body 20 minerals and you need 70? You're giving your body 30% of the amino acids where 91% more than 30%? I just ask you to think about it. Just think about what I'm saying. Jeffrey, that's a good start, but you're still missing the 91% absorption of amino acids. You're still missing the 71 trace ionic minerals. Wonderful. A moringa's good too. I'm not opposed to moringa. But again, Jeffrey, until something like that is put to the test of a peer-reviewed human, it's interesting. I'm not saying there's anything bad. If it helped you, that's great. But we got a much bigger problem than that. And it sounds like you're very, very disciplined. Okay, the one thing that we pride ourselves on, when people go to that website, and if they sign up for a personal consultation, they get a real education for free. Because it's not just about what people are consuming. Like, are you doing protein pacing? And what are you doing about intermittent nutritional fasting? You're not. You have no methodology there that would help and assist your body in removing the chemicals we're storing inside of our visceral fat. Sorry, that's just it. You know, they tell me about zeolite, they tell me about bentonite, they tell me about all these things. They're all interesting. And maybe they work. But I'm not doing this again. I did it for 20 years. I had to defend something I couldn't defend. That's why the medical community would never, ever take a look at it. Because again, without a peer-reviewed human trial study, that everything else was just hot air. Everything else was nonsense, right? I want to help and get help. Well, Jeffrey, the best thing you can do, it sounds like you're really knowledgeable. I think you'll be fascinated, but the #1 nutritional researcher in the world for 38 years and his team. Listen to what they say. Doesn't mean when we're talking about peer-reviewed human trial studies, so they've already been reviewed by the top medical doctors and researchers in the whole world, and that's what we rely on. So in closing, I would hope that you would at least, not you, Jeffrey, I'm just saying in general, okay, for everybody, right, would go to that, I'm going to put it up there one last time, the new health conversation It's 100% free to go there. And what's on the New Health Conversation? The medical proof, the studies, a breakdown of the studies, the before and afters, not just the weight loss, which you'll think we photoshopped that, but the medical changes in people in 30 days, and then the interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world. If you like what you see, then you can scroll down. It says free personal consultation. It's free. It's not a gimmick. It's not a trick. It's not like if you click on that, you're gonna get a call from someone on an 800 number. We do Zooms. We screen share. We show exactly what's involved. But also think about this: the first 30 days, 40% of the food you're normally going to buy from the grocery store, you do. The other 60%, these 5 foods that I've been talking about that come from all over the world, the fulfillment companies who supplied these 5 foods to the medical studies, they give you 100% money back guarantee on those 6 foods. Who's doing that? You get coached for free. But there's no other way for us to do it because you've never done anything. You've never done protein pacing before. You've never done intermittent nutritional fasting. We need to teach you how to do that because otherwise it's a waste of your time. It's not just the ingredients. That's about 50% of the battle, but the other 50% is this new way of consuming food. And all I can tell you is no one's ever seen these kind of results in 38 years of research. I guess it's going on 39 or 40 years now, actually. But I hope you all will take the time, put the effort in. Do you know Ivor Cummings and Dr. Campbell from China? Yeah, I know about Dr. Campbell's study from China. You wouldn't like what I would say about that, but that's a whole different thing about the plants, etc. It's just not what you think it is. But I'm not going to go down that road. I don't have time to do it, and it's just not. It's not what it was portrayed to be. Let me just say that. And I'm a researcher who knows. I've been to China. I've worked with some of the top people in the entire world. One of my colleagues is the geneticist who discovered the gene that causes aging. That's the level of person that I'm working with, and that's what they taught me about things like that. It's pretty eye-opening. But people can believe whatever they want to believe. That's why when you don't have peer-reviewed human trial studies, it's always up for a minimum suspicion, and probably that's the problem. We see all this stuff on TV, these supplements, it's going to make you sleep better, it's going to lower your blood pressure. They'll say, well, we have, there's a scientifically proven ingredient in this, but they didn't ever measure their particular product. Because when I look at the analysis or get the analysis done on a lot of these products, in order to equal anything that would have a medical meaningful dose, you'd have to take about 500 or 1,000 of their capsules. So you have to be very careful about all that stuff. That's why when you have peer-reviewed human trial studies, they're irrefutable. They've already been reviewed at the highest levels that we have available in the world. It's that simple. So anyway, I'm going to end this podcast. One last time, I'd invite any of you to go to you can see it there, the New Health Conversation. Great, Jeffrey. You can go there for free, the New Health Conversation. And if you like what you see, like Jeffrey just did, you can sign up for a free consultation. I hope you will. It's not going to change my life, but it really could change your life and maybe the lives of people that you care about and love. I mean, if 80% of Americans are overweight and 50% are obese, I'd say there's a pretty good chance that if you're not one of those people, you know somebody who is. I just think it's such a shame that they just keep struggling and beating themselves up and torturing themselves on these diets that at the end of the day, they just don't work. So again, I'm going to sign off. I hope all of you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Well, yeah, you've got still another day. So enjoy yourselves, everyone, and we'll go from there. Okay.